What's up, homies? My name's Woolasaur, or my name's Keegan. I also go by Woolasaur. And yeah, I'm just gonna be playing some more Best of One Omniscience. This is recorded on Sunday, the 30th. So I'm gonna try to finish in the top. I think it's the top 1,250 that gets some play point or get some qualification tokens. I will probably try to grind for the top 250 another month, but I don't think I'll have time. But hopefully I'll be able to just grind a little bit. I've been really busy, so I haven't played in a couple of days, but I should be able to get some good games in. Excuse me. Before I get going, I did want to point out this deck, or I mean this new card, Jeskai Revelation. This is, I believe, going to be a new cornerstone for the Omniscience decks. To borrow a phrase or a term from the Pokemon Nuzlocke community, this allows for some slot compression, where this counts as both the bounce effect and the damage effect in your sideboard. So you will no longer need both. You will no longer need both a "this town ain't big enough" effect and a card to kill them, which is very exciting. So you won't need a Haunt the Network and a "this town ain't big enough." In Best of One, actually, I don't think it's that big of a deal because it does restrict you by having a number of cards in your deck. So if you have one card in your library, you can't kill with Jeskai Revelation, whereas you can kill with "this town ain't big enough" and Haunt the Network or a similar effect. So I think this is actually more of a best of three card, where the additional sideboard slots really make a difference. But could potentially see play in Best of One as well, although you kind of have enough slots to play with in Best of One. But yeah, overall, playing with the same list that I was playing last time, I still really like this list. I think it's well tuned for Best of One. The Spell Pierce feels great. Generally, just feels like the ideal list to me. Someone on the last video did ask about a fourth Afara's Dispersal over a third stock up. I think that's reasonable, especially if you're seeing a lot of mono red. We will see how that pans up, but I just like having the additional stock up. It helps in the other matchups, and yeah, would recommend trying out this list. So this is recorded on Sunday the 30th, and that means that there's the BNR announcement tomorrow, which I'm very much looking forward to. I am a big Modern player in Paper, and obviously I'm enjoying Standard as well. And I'm hoping to see some bans in both of those formats. This hand's pretty good. Yeah, I think this hand's just good. It is very good into like a red deck, which we'll see what the situation is. But we probably do not want a temporary lockdown. We already have plenty of ways to not die against the red decks. But and we find ourselves against one of the red decks. We are going to chart a course, I think, here, just to get set up a little bit more. This is an interesting discard opportunity. I think we actually discard a chart of course, potentially. I don't hate that. It's either chart of course or the stock up, but I think I like having Archaeologist and Afara's Dispersal next turn. We can bounce whatever they cast a combat trick on next turn. Yeah, we hit our additional land drop, so that'll be good. Casting the Sphalaji, hoping to hit an Omniscience into the graveyard. We did not find an Omniscience. This is interesting. You don't usually need an additional copy of Abuelos against these decks. It's more about just hitting the Omniscience. I might take the Invasion just for the guaranteed win the following turn. So we have an Afara's Dispersal here. If we hit an Omniscience, that would obviously be ideal. But yeah, tomorrow is the BNR. Very excited for that. Here we get a great opportunity. We just get to move to blocks, block here, and Afara's Dispersal. Both of these are not what we are looking for. So we get to bin those. Take none. Okay, so there's an Omniscience. Was hoping that those would be in one of the prior cards, but that's okay. We can take a stock up here. We do want this Chart a Course to discard it, and then maybe just another Afar's Dispersal as a way to not die. That seems like the best thing to be doing here. But yeah, so tomorrow's the ban announcement. In Modern, I am hoping for Breach banned, no other changes. That's what I think is pretty realistic. Potentially we could get an unban. I think there are some cards that could come off the unban list, but I also think that people are way too excited and ready to have cards be unbanned. I think that there should be maybe a little bit more caution than is present with a lot of people's thoughts around the ban list. But I am excited to see what happens. I am at the moment at least, a Boros player. Now this is interesting. I'm not sure if we would rather... We probably just Afar's Dispersal the Emberheart Challenger here. This is interesting. I don't hate both of the, like, just keeping both of these. This guarantees that we can Chart a Course, discard Omniscience, play land, play Flagy Archaeologist, hold up Afar's Dispersal, which I think makes us pretty likely to survive this next turn cycle. And then in Standard, I don't... So my hope is that we will get bans in the form of... I'm going to take a Moment of Truth, so that if they hold up a shock effect, I can dig towards a counterspell. We still have a decent amount in the deck, and we have a guaranteed win with the Arcavios, so I'm not concerned about not being able to dig enough to win. I am hopeful that Monstrous Rage will be banned. I'm hopeful that Beans will be banned, and then I would be open to a This Town Ain't Big Enough ban if they think that is realistic or reasonable to do, especially with the other two big decks getting hit. I think that This Town is much less of a problem, especially if the other decks become less notable. But so here we have a deterministic win. We just get to block Afar's Dispersal U, and then we have a invasion in our graveyard. Yep. Okay, great. So we have a win. Yes, this. Target Omniscience. We invasion. Search our sideboard. And the game's over. Great. If you want to see the kill played out, you can check out the previous video. We killed quite a few people with the playing out the whole combo line. In ranked, they're a little bit more likely to concede, I think, because it's kind of a time crunch, especially at this time in the season. But yeah, I don't think that Omniscience is a deck that's problematic in terms of like bans for Standard. It is obviously good, and I do think that this is an interesting hand. I kind of wish the lands were a little different, but we are going to keep it. It's obviously an interesting deck and has some play to it. Looks like we're playing the Mirror, and is very good in best of one, but it's not exactly the best deck in best of three. It's a fine deck. It's a good deck. It won an NRG recently, but I think I'm gonna Flagy here. It's an interesting decision between Flagy and Chart a Course. We do have our Spell Pierce, which is going to be our best card in the matchup. Dispersal is fine. I mean, we'll take it, but I'm not in love with it. They did get to ban an Omniscience right off the bat in this game, which is quite good for them. We are not in an ideal position here. We also have tapped lands, which is extra not ideal. If they just go for it here, we have to Spell Pierce, which is fine, but not great. And then hopefully they just don't have another way to find Omniscience for the graveyard, but I think we will be Spell Piercing a Abuelos here. They just kind of had the better hand. Nothing to really write home about in this game. It's a shame that they had an early Omniscience bend when we drew our Spell Pierce, because that's really the mirror breaker in the matchup. I think we might just play stock up here. There's no real point. Okay, so we did miss on both a land and finding our finding an Omniscience. If we bin it here, potentially we could do something. It does not look like it. So we are pretty likely to just lose the game here. I will almost certainly be conceding to an Abuelos here. No? Okay, so they don't have a second copy of Abuelos, so that's good. That's a positive for us. They are probably in the position that you're usually supposed to be in this matchup, which is never going below 3 mana, so you can hold up your Confounding Riddle. It does not look like that will be going very well for us. We do have a Confounding Riddle, so again, we're able to play through some hate. And we have a Moment of Truth, so we can continue to dig towards our Omniscience. We don't have our Spell Pierce anymore, so we're not going to be able to play through their Confounding Riddle, but maybe they'll fire off they'll tap out of Confounding Riddle or something stupid. But I suspect we will likely lose this game, but who knows? If we find second Confounding Riddle, we would be able to hold up double Confounding Riddle with 6 lands, which would be which is one of the ways that you can win the matchup on the draw. Curious. Okay, so they are tapping out of Confounding Riddle here. I'm curious if they have Spell Pierce, or what their situation is. I think because of that, I am going to rip off this Confounding Riddle now. They are tapped out of their own Confounding Riddles. We're never really beating a Spell Pierce, so we did not find anything here. I will take this Invasion, because that will help us to win if we are able to hit an Omniscience off of this Moment of Truth. So I'm going to tap, cast a Moment of Truth. Hope to see an Omniscience in here. There's no Omniscience. Not ideal. And Graveyard Library. We are going to play this Meticulous Archive. Okay, again, 1 short, not where you want to be. We would have loved to have been that this turn, because I think they were tapped out of potential counter magic. So that would have been a great way to win the game, but we were not quite fortunate enough to get there. Oh, we had a better, wait. If we play an untapped land there, no, okay. I was thinking maybe for a second there was a line that includes Flagey Archaeologist attacking, playing Afara's Dispersal to dig extra 2 cards deep, but that would not work. So let's see. I am actually going to Afara's Dispersal our own Flagey Archaeologist, I think. To try to find another copy of Confounding Riddle. We have 2 more in the deck. Okay, neither of those. We do have protection now that we have a second Abuelos, but the first one needs to resolve is kind of the bigger concern. This is interesting. So they could have played around 1 Confounding Riddle that turn. I'm curious if they don't have a Confounding Riddle, and that's why they have 29 cards in their deck. They have not used a Confounding Riddle, I do not believe. No. So they're pretty likely to have one. In that case, we are dead next turn anyways. So I think we just let it rip. This could be incorrect. Say in the comments if you engagement, all that stuff. Say in the comments if you disagree with this. Yep, I have a Confounding Riddle. That's fine. Potentially, it's just supposed to be stock up, pass, but I don't know that I realistically see a world in which we're winning a game where it's stock up, pass. Because part of the situation is, yes, that Abuelos is almost never resolving, but we are also never, we need to start pressuring at some point. And depending on what spell they cast here, I will concede, but I will try to Afara's Dispersal with their Omniscience. This probably won't work, but it might. So, okay, Moment of Truth. If they don't have a counter spell, then potentially this could be an out for us. Did they find it? I will. Oh, okay. So that is good for us. We have not enough mana for the second Abuelos to matter. Actually, it is protection against a non-confounding riddle, which we know that they don't have confounding riddle in hand because they would have countered it there if they had it. Here they do get to find negate. Yeah, that's the... Okay, so this is supposed to be a bin so that we can potentially draw a confounding riddle. I am going to... We do not have a land. I am going to cast a stock up, I think. Do they have an additional copy of Omniscience in their graveyard? Let me see. Okay, no Omniscience in the graveyard, so that's relevant. I will take a land and this confounding riddle. Play the land for turn, and then I think maybe just pass. It's weird, they know we have this Archaeologist, and the Archaeologist, the extra 2 mana doesn't really matter. There's nothing we can realistically be representing, so we probably just Archaeologist and try to see what's going on. We will take, I guess, a Chart a Course. I'll just take the Arcavios. It can help us get a negate from our sideboard if we, if the game ends up going that way, but I find that probably pretty unlikely. So they're doing the same play that we did before. First Dispersal, mill 2 cards. I'm curious what they're digging for. Hopefully they tap out quite a bit of digging, or by digging for this next spell. Quasi, yep, that's fine. They're looking to mill an Omniscience, most likely. Okay, so there's the Omniscience. That is not ideal, because they have enough to Abuelos and hold up negate, which we will, in all likelihood, concede to. So let's see. 1 invasion. Do they have another invasion in their deck? They do have another invasion. Almost every list plays 3. I will do the thing I'm supposed to do. They negate it. If they show me another copy of Invasion, I will concede. But they do need to find another Invasion or Omniscience. Yep, that's fine. And there's the other. Okay. Okay, that's not a problem. That happens. Maybe we aren't supposed to jam that turn, but that was an interesting game. They obviously drew a little bit better than we did. I wish that we had an untapped land or were able to play, not have to play our Spell Pierce on that early turn, because it is such a powerhouse later into the game, but that's okay. Hand's great. We obviously need to find our actual combo, but there's a great start to it. I am probably going to Chart a Course on turn 2, unless this is a red deck. This is a red deck, so I will now be Flagi Archaeologisting to help stem some bleeding. Take a Moment of Truth. We have plenty of digging. I'm not worried about finding an invasion. Or maybe because we have so much digging, maybe it's just worth keeping the invasion. That's an interesting question. Like, it's Menace, which isn't ideal. And then if we don't draw a land here, we will have to chart a course to hit our land drops. We will be casting chart a course. There's some land drops. Discarding probably an additional copy of chart a course. That's one of the worst ones we have here. Drawing land, not what we want to see. We're just fully on the looking for, I guess, temporary lockdown would be, oh, that's an interesting one. Okay. We're cascading. Okay. I'll be taking 1 million, I guess. That's not great for me. Ouch. Okay, that's a really good draw. I'm going to Flagy Archaeologist, looking for an Abuelos. Moment of Truth. I might just take the point of toughness here, if I'm being honest. Yeah, I don't need more digging, but I will take just a point of toughness. Okay, Sheltered by Ghosts. That is not ideal. I think that actually will kill us. We will not be able to Afar's Dispersal it anymore. Maybe no, I don't think there's a world where we're ever just supposed to hold up Afar's Dispersal. Maybe there is. Who knows? Maybe they won't. Maybe all of the other 3 cards in their hand are blanks, and we won't die. And nope. Okay. Yeah, they had that too. We were super dead. Yeah, I don't think we're ever, because if we don't play the creature, they don't need to play the Sheltered by Ghosts. They just get to jam. Or even if they do play the Sheltered by Ghosts, we're turbo dead that game. That's not that wasn't a draw we were gonna beat. If we had a lockdown, we could have gotten there, but not without the lockdown. I guess another piece of update or something that I'd love feedback on is I just changed my settings for my voice recording. So hopefully hopefully it's, I don't know, sounds better, sounds nicer. This is interesting. It's a guaranteed another land drop. We're not really looking for lands. We are looking for action. That's an unfortunate being on the play or on the draw versus Heartfire Hero and a Manifold Mouse is not where you want to be, obviously. Maybe I'm supposed to keep that Plains on top so that if we draw a temporary lockdown here, I did not get a temporary lockdown, so that is not something we need to concern ourselves with. But yeah, this hand was definitely more to be played into blue-white or a slower deck, and especially if they have Monstrous Rage here, there's not too much we can realistically do. And this is kind of the reason that I feel Monstrous Rage should be banned. Its interaction with Manifold Mouse is pretty upsetting. The interaction, I think there was a Brian Kibler video and some different people have kind of spoken up with it, but blocking is generally a piece of interaction that is supposed to be utilized for newer, let's see, am I ever alive? I could play this into Flagy Archaeologist into Afar's Dispersal. That seems like the only line that maybe makes me live. Do I ever chart a course? No, I don't think so. I think it's this. Maybe hit an Afar's Dispersal and then... But even then, we might just be dead. Yeah, okay, we are turbo dead. Okay. Unfortunate going into the draw on against this deck. We're having maybe everyone is just playing red right now. I think that's a couple of games in a row. So maybe if we keep playing against red decks, we can swap over to the 4th copy of Afar's Dispersal, like our friend was mentioning on the previous video. but I'm assuming that this will maybe also be a red a mouse deck. But I don't think this is a hand that I can realistically mulligan. We are on the draw again, so losing a lot of coin flips, which is tough. Okay, blue-black. If this is bounce, okay, bounce is a good matchup for us. The other blue-black decks are a bad matchup for us, but just they don't have very efficient interaction with the combo. Okay, that's fine. Honestly, a duress later down the line would be much harder for us to beat, but a duress at this point is not that big of a deal, assuming they don't have like more duresses and such. I'm fine to. That's interesting. I'm probably just going to pitch an island here. These decks can make you go down on just the quantity of cards in your hand quite a bit, just by bouncing and replaying Hopeless Nightmares. So I usually like to keep an invasion against them, just as a way to kill consistently with just 1 or 2 cards in hand. If they bounce here, obviously, if they bounce this Hopeless Nightmare, that will be ideal for us, as we just get to discard Omniscience and feel good about ourselves. But yeah. But let me know if the sound is good. I played around with it. Hopefully I won't need to do any, like... On the last video, I sounded very quiet, so I needed to, like, up it a couple times before I uploaded it. And hopefully that won't be a problem. Hopefully I just sound good right now, and everything is good and normal. Great. They do that. I'm going to discard this Omniscience. Another copy of Omniscience. That's fine. We are just going to stock up, looking for land plus... land plus Abuelos, which we did not find. I will probably just take Chart a Course. If they don't have a way to make us discard additional cards, we can just land Chart a Course, Moment of Truth, which is nothing. Or we could have that. This deck usually does not play counter magic. They could have a bounce. They likely have a bounce effect, but they are not able to win. I guess if they had if their cards in hand are exactly a kill spell and this town ain't big enough, then we wouldn't get there. But even then, we potentially could because of the Moment of Truth. So I think that it's worth going for here. If they have a counter spell in hand, obviously, that's not ideal. But not the counter spell I was expecting. But I guess that is a card that gets bounced and does well when it's bounced. So that's kind of sick. I think going for the win there was the correct play, but obviously into Karate, that's a tough one. Bouncing the duress back, that's fine. We kind of just have full redundancy in our hand. They can take any card here, and it doesn't really matter. We get to block this and only take 3, so that's another good piece of what's happening here. Zarati is a little bit, or Airtie. I was saying Arati. Airtie is a little spooky, but it should be fine. We take 3 here. We can cast Chart a Course on our following turn. Look for an additional thing. I do like the Blast Zone in this matchup. It can help a lot with pressure from this deck. I'm curious if they have... If their 1 card in hand is this town. It is just the blue-black version. It's the Esper version. Obviously, they don't have any white lands, but also the Esper version does not play Cat. So that's something. I think it's still worth just blocking the Otter to me. Now I'm going to cast this Moment of Truth. I do think I will play this Archaeologist and Graveyard Library. Just as an additional blocker, it buys us some time. We are under quite a bit of pressure on our life total. I will tap this and blue. You do have to be careful with Arena because they do like to keep your blast zones untapped, which can be problematic in some cases. See, a Forest Dispersal isn't actually that good here, at least the additional copy. But everything else is also kind of bad here. We could temporary lockdown. I guess a Forest Dispersal isn't awful. The invasion doesn't do much at all. I guess there was a line this turn of just casting the invasion and getting our Nabuelos back from the graveyard. Maybe that was better. Let's think about this. I'll take an invasion. That way we have a redundant copy of invasion and are able to continue to play. I'm not too concerned about dying on this turn cycle. Hopefully we see bottom here. Yeah, it was probably... So that's probably a punt on my part. Invasion here getting... Then we don't have a way to dig. We don't know the second invasion is on top. If Forest Dispersal searches for a dig spell for us. We're at 34 cards left in deck, 1 Abuelos. That's interesting. Looks like their last card is a nowhere. Yeah. That is fine. We do want to be careful of dying to this Hopeless Nightmare, so I will probably block this turn. I'm going to a Forest Dispersal to get some information first for blocking. I will keep that on top. Let's see. If they had this town, they could bounce Irati and Hopeless Nightmare. We're never really beating at this town. Yeah, let's block. They do have priority, but the priority is likely just from the Hopeless Nightmare, so I'm not too concerned about it. Brief Isolation picking up Irati. Okay, that's a little bit spooky. If I play this, then because we can't Abuelos this turn. If I cast this invasion, we die to any return to hand effect, but I don't know that we're beating that anyways. So playing an invasion. They don't have a mana land, do they? They don't have a mana land. Okay. So we draw a card. Play a land, pass turn. Don't have a bounce to hand effect. Any bounce to hand effect kills us here because of Hopeless Nightmare. We will see. Okay, they didn't do anything there. We are gonna let her rock. We beat Spell Pierce. I guess this town would have killed us last turn, so it can't be this town. I don't think there's anything that they could realistically... Yeah, I don't think there's anything they could realistically have at that point that they wouldn't have played previously. But there we go. Okay, good job navigating that matchup. The Irati was definitely a card that they don't usually have access to, which is obviously quite good against us. The bounce deck usually just doesn't have great interaction game one. It makes a lot of sense to play Irati, given the current best of one meta, especially if you're trying to grind it, because it's fine into... It costs 4, it's a removal spell, so I guess it's fine into the red decks, but it's quite good into both Domain and the deck that we are playing. We've probably got a couple more games in me. Hand looks great. We don't get a hold up turn 1 Spell Pierce, but that is okay. where this hand kind of plays itself in a lot of ways. We're just gonna play Flagy into stock up into hopefully the Flagy Mills and Omniscience, or we hit one off the Hidden Grotto, and so it looks like we are playing against Domain. That is going to be a good matchup for us. We will decline to put this Omniscience in our hand. One of the fun cool things you get to do. Ghost Vacuum. Okay. So we are stock upping. So this is something that will come up quite a bit. People will be playing kind of wild ways to beat this deck in best of one. We are going to attempt to play through it. Different effects that we have to play through it would include the temporary lockdowns, which will get rid of Ghost Vacuum, as well as we can get a piece from our sideboard. Okay, so this looks like the Cage deck, which is fine for us. We're going to play Meticulous Archive here. Blast Zone is also a way to get rid of it, so that's something we can keep on top. Keep this here. They are going to just exile things from our graveyard. It doesn't really matter. It is interesting. Like Ghost Vacuum and these kind of effects, I've had Rest in Peace played against me in game ones, Ghost Vacuums, etc. It's one of those things where I can't quite, like, how do you beat the red decks? How do you play the game in non this matchup like specifically is kind of a bit of a confusing element. Okay, so we will now be casting Temporary Lockdown instead of the plan that we had before. I don't think it's worth attacking with the Flagy. That's interesting, but I do not think that is worth doing. So we're going to Temporary Lockdown. They're going to eat a spell out of our graveyard. It doesn't really matter. And then we are going to play this Meticulous Archive and hopefully put an Omniscience in our graveyard. Nope. Okay. Well, a boy can dream. So yeah, potentially they have a way to destroy our Temporary Lockdown, which we have to be on. We have to be afraid of. Collector's Cage is pretty spooky here. We have to be concerned about them just having 2-drop activate, which it doesn't look like they have right now, but it's a little bit, it's a scary card. Arcavios is interesting, so we are going to play the Grotto this turn and try to spike an Omniscience. Nope. Okay. In that case, we will probably cast an Invasion, which doesn't feel great. Trying to look, let's see. We're just trying to, we'll have, what, 7 mana next turn? As far as Dispersal is interesting, because it makes them less likely to attack us, and it also digs. Confounding Riddle goes the deepest for what we're just trying to bend into the graveyard. Both their creatures have ETBs, so I'm not in love with as far as dispersaling. I might just take a Confounding Riddle. Which I suppose in that case I should have taken the Confounding Riddle from our graveyard, but we will see. Okay, that's not a bad one. I think I probably will play this Oracle of Tragedy over the Confounding Riddle because we can do the Confounding Riddle in end step. I will keep the Blast Zone and pass the turn. All right, we are digging towards finding an Omniscience and putting it in the graveyard. They could potentially have a Cavalry under this, which would be quite bad for us. obviously. We get to block here and have at least a little bit of interaction to not die. Their cage isn't really doing the cage thing. That's interesting. Now, when this enters, exile target artifact or creature. Okay, so it's not hitting our temporary lockdown, which I think means that we need to... I think we just let that happen. We actually have an interesting play here of if they attack us, we can crack our blast zone and block, which I don't hate, which will help us dig extra far. So yeah, I think we're going to go for that. This costs 1. So we crack our blast zone, it blows up that, we get our Oracle of Tragedy, we dig a card. I am probably just going to bin the Spell Pierce and feel bad if it ends up mattering. Or no, we're dead on the next turn, so we'll bin a Confounding Riddle. I think... yes, because we are dead on the next turn, most likely. I don't think that they would play something... They could play Get Lost, I suppose. So I'll bin that, block here. Dies, we draw discard again. I will, this time, I think I'll discard the Spell Pierce. The land is more relevant to me, I think, because it guarantees if we hit an Omniscience in the top 4, that we'll be able to still combo. And if we hit an Omniscience and not an untapped one. And, okay. That is not ideal. Another copy of Ghost Vacuum is not what we wanted to see. I will cast a Moment of Truth. See what we find. I put a Moment of Truth in hand. Graveyard bottom. Cast a Moment of Truth. We could potentially live here. Okay. And let's see. Best way to live here is Archaeologist, maybe. And then, how do we ever win this game? Yeah, I think it's with Archaeologist, Graveyard bottom. We are pretty unlikely to win this game. Our opponent having 2 Ghost Vacuums without us having any sideboard cards is a little rough, obviously. Okay, stock up is fine. We are pretty likely to just die here. Again, I'm not really sure how, like, the 2 Ghost Vacuums deck plays into mono red, but certainly if you're playing into Omniscience, it seems pretty good. So there's not too much interesting to talk about right now. I guess this is potentially a game where having like a Day of Judgment or something out of the sideboard would be helpful. Okay, we are dead. Okay, that's tough. Not much we can do against 2 Ghost Vacuums in their main deck. But, you know, you win some, you lose some. Let's try to get a few more in, just get some good ones in where we're not getting main deck Ghost Vacuumed. I'm pretty happy with how we've navigated most of the games today. We've made a couple of like small errors, but I don't think anything too major. Hand looks good. Again, we're losing the die roll, which is not exactly where we want to be, but that's okay. I think there's also quite a few people on right now because it is the second to last day. Potentially, I'll be playing some more tomorrow and just trying to grind my way up if I don't end up being that high. But yeah, so maybe I'll upload another video. Okay, so it appears to be a red deck, so that's a little spooky. They don't have a 1-drop, so that's very good for us. Get red-white. Okay, so it's like a control... It probably is the red or white Caretaker's Talent list. I would be concerned about a potential the 3/1 flash cat. I don't know for sure. I don't think it's worth not taking the invasion there to make this a 1/4. You can block, but this deck usually plays quite a few removal spells, so I don't think that our Flagy Archaeologist is very long for this world. I'm going to pass the turn, hold up Confounding Riddle and Moment of Truth and Spell Pierce, and see where life takes us. At the beginning of your turn, choose up to one target vehicle you control becomes thing with haste. I think that's worth Spell Piercing for me. I don't know for sure. Maybe that's not a Spell Pierceable card. Maybe I should be waiting for like some interaction, but I don't know. Seems fine. We have plenty of lands, so we do not need that. Okay, Abuelo's found. If we mill an Omniscience here, we win the game. And it's just that easy. Okay. Yeah, so that was not, you know, I don't know that we can say that we particularly earned that one, but, you know, it was a good game. Sorry for the bad beats draw, but that's playing the combo deck. I'm also really close to having this deck in paper. I have mostly just played it on Arena, but I've been looking to put it together for paper for just like standard showdowns, not game days, but store championships is what they're called now, and potentially future RCQ seasons. Oh, that's another actually really cool part. Hand's good. We're on the draw, which is nice. That's another really cool part about this Jeskai Revelation card is I think that it gives hope for this deck to exist post-rotation in a different form. Because obviously the big card that is rotating is Arcavios. A lot of the smaller pieces are rotating as well. Like, the deck would change quite a bit, but just the concept of an Abuelo's Omniscience Reanimate combo deck, I think has a potential to live, because that's a card that you could realistically put in your main deck as a castable off Omniscience, kind of like how Arcavios is cast, but it would... This card does what? You may cast target non-land permanent and mana of any type can be spent to cast it. Okay. I'll play an Oracle of Tragedy. It's not without paying its mana cost, right? Yeah, no, okay. I will discard this Omniscience. This way we can trade and block this thing, as opposed to just playing the Flagy Archaeologist and feeling bad about ourselves. But I have hope for the deck to live potentially after rotation. It would need a it needs an Archaeomancer effect, which I don't think there actually is one in Standard right now, which is kind of funny. Besides Arcavios, not even like Arcavios obviously searches out of the graveyard, or out of the graveyard, deck, and sideboard. The sideboard obviously being the big one, but even outside of that, the just having an Archaeomancer would be good enough for that version of the list. I am going to take this Archaeologist as just a blocker, I think, and then the stock up. Or actually, that's interesting. Yeah, if we're looking to stock up plus Archaeologist next turn, that seems fine. We're going to cast a Safaris Dispersal on this turn cycle. I always get a little bit scared on the black decks because I've had them cast the 4-mana Surgical Extraction effect against me, and that obviously feels quite bad. Here we get to bounce the Unstoppable Slasher, which is obviously going to feel quite good. We can block the Tiny Bones. This is obviously going to put us on quite a clock, but not anything too bad. We can't cast this after the Oracle of Tragedy trigger, so we will not try to, but it doesn't matter. We are almost guaranteed to win the game. Great. So we do have to find a... we are not deterministic currently. but we have a stock up and a quasi-archaeologist, so I think that we are pretty close. And some people will just concede to this. I don't think that I would concede if I were them. As far as Dispersal is really cool in this deck because it is both a combo piece and a way to not die piece. I'll take a Charter Course. I will stock up. I don't really have a rhyme or reason for the order in which I play. I guess in this situation where they're tapped out, it is better to hold your land drop so you could potentially find a Surveil land to go an extra card or two deep. We have found a Invasion. We would technically need a second one, but maybe they will concede to the first one. Either way, you can speed up your comboing once you have an Invasion by quite a bit by bouncing a Falaji Archaeologist and the Invasion if they make you look for a second Invasion. Again, you're deterministic after the first Invasion because you're able to get Joanne's Stopgap from your sideboard, but you do need to kill. In order to kill, you do need a second Invasion. And that's one of the nice things about the new Jeskai card is you just need one Invasion. It's super clean. You just kill them and deal 4 damage to them. You need to have at least half as many cards in library as they have life. So if they're at 20, you'll need at least 10 cards in your library in order to kill them. But that's usually not a problem. It can be sometimes, and that's why I will probably continue to play this loop or a similar loop in on Arena, but especially in Paper where your sideboard slots matter a little bit more, it is important. And I'm excited to have that opportunity to play with that. But yeah, I don't know. I think the post-rotation version is bad because you lose a lot of pieces, but if they print more, I did have fun. If they print more versions of, like, cantrips that put cards in the graveyard, we do have Charter Course still, but we won't have Moment of Truth, we won't have Falaji Archaeologist. So those are two of your better dig pieces and ways to get Omniscience into the graveyard. So potentially the deck could exist. I think it would need a lot of help, but it's just cool that the deck could even potentially exist post-rotation. We are on the play. We are not playing against LSV, but a close relative, perhaps. And they played Mountain, which just always makes me think the Mouse deck, which is going to make me think that Temporary Lockdown will be good. I will take a Moment of Truth. We are in all likelihood just playing stock up this next turn. Okay, second land. I'm curious what they have in hand or what deck they are playing, because obviously you would expect. I think we are just gonna take the combo here. We obviously need a way to discard our Omniscience, but we can get there, I trust. If we draw a untapped land, it actually... Okay, so yeah, it looks like this is just mono red, but they had, like, a very reactive draw, maybe? Uncertain. This is interesting. We can just save some life. Temporary Lockdown. I would say that while we're able to block without them having a Monstrous Rage, I guess we're always blocking exactly 3 damage, even if they have a Monstrous Rage. I am going to block, I think. That's interesting. Let's see. If they have Double Strike Mouse, that's 6 damage, Monstrous Rage up to 12 damage, another Monstrous Rage. I don't think it's realistic that we die next turn, so I think I'm just going to stock up. Guaranteed we get our land. We already have a... Or no, we do not have an Omniscience in graveyard. So I will take an Omniscience and this Invasion, I think, as just a redundant way to win the game, or a way to guaranteed win the game. We will bin a land and pass the turn, discarding Omniscience to hand size, hoping we are not dead. I think it's pretty unlikely we are dead here. They can get this mouse up to 9 power double strike, I think, reasonably easily, but not 10. So they likely have some shock effects here that will be fine. They, in all likelihood, will not be able to play through the enchantment version of our Omniscience. I don't think there's any instant speed way they can get us. I will play this Invasion, show them that they are dead. I feel like most of the players who are playing red are trying to maximize just quantity of games played. So they are not going to want to sit through my combo lines. All right, I've probably got one or two more. Hopefully we can end back in the numbers, and then I'll be able to go from there tomorrow. Trying to end in that range to get the tokens, because, you know, why not? It looks like maybe another red gamer. This hand is fine against red gamers. We are on the draw, which is not ideal. Okay, blue-black. Just a Chandra enjoyer, I suppose. We get a chart of course, hopefully find a second white source, and then cast a temporary lockdown, which will put their clock to basically 0, which will be quite nice. You do have to be careful of them having, like, this town ain't big enough, but that's interesting. It's probably just Oracle of Tragedy now. It goes one less card deep, but it does block, which is good. And if they kill it or something similar here, then we do still get to loot. Untapped white source, not an untapped white source, so that's not ideal. We would really like to draw the white source this turn. That is not the white source. So we could just die, which isn't great. I will be chart of coursing here. Okay. That is tough. So we did not find a land. We could potentially still win the game if we draw an untapped white. If they don't kill us this turn, we draw an untapped white source, and then we temporary lockdown. Are we just dead here? They can put us to... Okay, so they're keeping mana up. Interesting. I would probably just be on the... Or I guess they could have another copy of this town, potentially. Okay, well, we're gonna take the one game action we are able to play. If they have another copy of this town, we lose. If they do not, then we win. It looks like they do have another copy. Yep. Okay. So then they are just able to cast 2 spells and beat us here. Okay, well, obviously we are supposed to be able to win the game this turn. We did miss a land drop and our temporary lockdown, so we could have gotten there if not for missing our land drops. Are a couple cards deep, but that's okay. All right, I'm determined to end this video in the numbers, so we will, I think, play 3 more games. And I know I've been saying that I'll get off, but I don't know. Best of 1, it's addicting. It's Arena. Magic's a good game. So I'll play 1 or 2 more. Hopefully there's some good things to be learned from in this video. We are on the draw. This hand doesn't have any of the combo pieces. It is just like a fine hand. It has lands and spells. These are the tough ones. I think we're on the draw, so if this is mono red, we don't like this hand. If it's like any other deck, we like the hand. I think I'm gonna mulligan. I think this hand's better. It's interesting, but I think this hand's better. We'll put the Oracle back, I think. Maybe it's Chart a Course, actually. This Oracle blocks against a potential mono red opponent. Okay, so glad that we mulliganed. That's good. Okay, great. We have a Goldfish turn 4. They don't have a mouse start. They do have a double Hired Claw start, potentially a triple Hired Claw start. Okay, just ripping off a turn inside out. That probably makes sense to me. Just get the damage in while you can. That makes me think that, well, one, they likely don't have another super relevant card in hand. And two, hopefully they don't have that doesn't really give us information as to whether they have a Monstrous Rage. All of these decks would be playing for Monstrous Rage. These are Monstrous Rages 5 through 8. So their triggers do seem to be going pretty fast here, which makes me think that they might not have interaction. No, okay, they have priority. Monstrous Rage would be not ideal. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Shock effect, draw, discard. I'll discard a island. Okay, so there's no... I think we just stock up here, hope not to die. Potentially we're supposed to just hold it up, because why not? Make them a little bit spooked. But I mean, they're always killing us this turn if they're able to. Stock up doesn't matter here because we have the redundant copy of Omniscience. They're not gonna double Thoughtseize us. I think I'm actually gonna pass the turn and then just like full control a couple of times to spook them. They need to deal 4 damage to us, so they would need 2 Monstrous Rage effects, which I don't think they have because they didn't bolt our thing. Okay, great. And that's a W. Oh, wait. Oh, actually, okay. Big misplay on my part. I was definitely supposed to stock up last turn. I, for some reason, thought that I had an Arcavios in hand. I just did not. So that is a big misplay on my part. It's getting later in the night here. Flagy Archaeologist is always going to be one of your better dig spells because it turns your future Afara's dispersals into additional dig spells. Yeah, so that's a big punt by me. Thankfully, we did not get punished for it, but yeah, that was, I don't even know what I was thinking there. So yeah, this turns, because we took the Archaeologist earlier instead of the Moment of Truth, this turns our Afara's Dispersal into an additional dig spell, which is obviously quite powerful and helps us find our Arcavios. We are going to play an Arcavios. They should concede. They are deterministically dead, but if they do not, we will just do the usual lines. Find our second copy of Arcavios. Do the whole thing. I'll throw in a good game just so they know that they're dead, even if they're not gonna concede to it. Stock up. There's our invasions. We have our third invasion, so even if we misclick, we are fine. I'll get at this town, and then I will get a sideboard Hunt the Network. Yeah, so if you're playing along at home, definitely cast the stock up there. That was just trying to be way too cute for me, but you know, it ended up working out, so never punished. But in paper, Yeah, there's just really no reason not to cast stock up there, if you're being honest. I was just kind of playing into my opponent misplaying. Um, but I don't think there's ever really a situation where you're supposed to do that. It was cute. It was kind of fun, you know, uh throwing in some priorities off of the full control mode is always a little bit of fun that you can have. Okay, so we're back into playing against numbered opponents, ranked opponents. This hand is fine, I think. It's okay. Has a little bit of digging, has a way to get Omniscience, or has an Omniscience. Potentially we could, so we're playing against blue-white control. Potentially we could fool them into thinking we are not the deck that we are. I think that's pretty unlikely, but they could think they're playing the mirror. That'll happen sometimes. It is not blue-white control. I saw the Restless and thought that it was. Okay, well, this is a bad matchup for us, so it's not ideal. I will be taking this into my hand, that in the graveyard, and that into the library. I think I will be... As far as this Bristle's interesting here, but I think I'm just going to be casting this stock up. It'll allow us to go up to 8 and discard an Omniscience, which is a powerful thing to do in this matchup. Or just in general, but also in this matchup. The Meticulous Archive is interesting over just an island. I think I would rather have the untapped source, so I'm going to take that. Go to end step, discard an Omniscience. Haughty Djinn is really the scary card in this matchup. It lets them hold up their counterspells with much more impunity. Not attacking there is interesting. I'm curious what their logic is there. Maybe they think I have... That's fine. So there's one counterspell gone on a card that doesn't really matter. Stock up isn't a super impactful card in this matchup. More digging. It's really a question of how many counterspells they're playing in their list. They can vary quite a bit. But here we get to a Far's Dispersal, which is a spell that is going to matter much more than our stock up ever would have. I'm curious, maybe they thought I was on Ride's End, potentially, because I was tapped out, so I couldn't have a Far's, dispersaled the Djinn. So I'm curious why not attack there. I guess it was was it just a 0/4? I guess, but I don't know. Still seems... I mean, I'm never attacking. I guess it doesn't matter, but... Sounds good. That's a really powerful card. I'll probably be... I guess I'll cast a stock up through potential counter magic. Not great spells here. I do like the Omniscience as an additional piece of protection. Chart a course. Because once you get through the counterspell protection, you then need to get through the... once you get through the counterspell protection, you then need to get through the... Get Lost and damage-based spells. So again, here, the Blast Zone, I should have been more careful with what lands were tapped, because the Blast Zone is representing nothing here. But... Sure. Countering that is fine. Huh. So if they have another copy of exactly Phantom Interference, I do lose. If they have any other counterspell, I can win through it. Sure, what's the chance that they have a third or fourth copy of... They have a third copy of Phantom Interference? They had a third copy of Phantom Interference. Unfortunate. I think you're supposed to go for it there. If they have any 2-mana counterspell or anything else, we have Spell Pierce available, but that's obviously not how we drew it up. Here, I guess we Meticulous Archive. bin an archaeologist. Their creatures have flying. And then we'll cast a Charter Course. Okay, that's interesting. We will discard one of our invasions. We do not need a million copies of invasion. And here we have a counterspell. We have a dispersal. We'll probably just go to 2 if they let us go to 2. No. Yeah, because they'll maybe try to play instant or sorceries. No, okay. Well. So I think just going for Confounding Riddle here is going to be the best option. It's interesting because it's another counterspell. This digs deeper, and I think we just need to try to dig deeper here. Okay, nothing. We'll take this Moment of Truth because it digs the deepest. Or maybe the second Afara's Dispersal, it could potentially give us another draw step, even through a counterspell. I don't hate that. That's interesting. Okay, so we can go like this. Abuelo's Awakening. Do they have a 4th copy of Phantom Interference? No? Okay. That's huge. We cast an Omniscience. We cast an Arcavios. Bounce Audijin. Let's see. We can exile a thing. We can play it. It costs 2 more. They're bouncing this to our hand. I think that's fine. I think we're going to let that resolve. Then we're going to let the Safari's Dispersal resolve. We are going to bin these 2 cards. Let that happen. And then we're going to Afara's Dispersal this. Bin these 2 cards. Then we are going to let the bounce off resolve. That will resolve. We will, from our sideboard, grab our Chart a Course, and we will Chart a Course, discarding our Omniscience, playing a land, pass a turn. Okay. So I think that provides us. So this is obviously nothing's happening here. I think I'm happy with how I played that. It's certainly an interesting situation. I'm curious if they will just animate Anchorage here. Nope. Playing out the Haijin. Sure. Okay, so this would allow us how many? We have 2 Abuelos left in our deck of 26 cards. If we Spell Pierce this, they can't find a counterspell. And that lets us play this and the dig for the spell. I think that's fine. I think that's what we do here. Okay, so it didn't end up mattering. The only thing that matters here is hitting a... Right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we do not have enough to invasion for a spell, and we do have an Omniscience in our graveyard. That is accurate. Okay, we are going to go for it. That is not it. So I guess we take a That's tough. Moment of Truth. We have not played our land yet this turn. So we could potentially hit another copy of a Forest Dispersal I think we still have in our deck. And that is not it. That is unfortunate. I'm really happy with how I navigated that game. But at the end of the day, we missed on our copies. Happy with how I navigated it. Potentially there was another line on that turn where they had 4 mana up, but I'm not 100% sure. This will probably be my last game no matter what. I just looked at the recording timer, and this is a long one. I guess I was not restricted. In the previous video, I was obviously restricted by the number of rounds in a match. This hand's interesting. It doesn't do anything, but it kinda does a lot. Because it can't cast any spells, I think I might need to ship it. But at the same time, stock up. I think this hand's okay. We just need to draw a land, and then we're clear off the stock up. We're on the play. We have a dual land. Obviously, it's an Adhikar Waste, which isn't where we want to be, but it might be fine. Swift Spear. Again, not the blue source we want in this situation. And if we lose this game to keeping a questionable hand, then that'll be a good sign that I should stop playing for the night and go to bed. Easy draw step. Easy draw step. Wasn't even worried about it, if I'm being honest. Wasn't concerned. Easy game. Not even a little bit scared. Ember Challenger, sure. Here's another situation where it's gonna try to make me tap incorrectly. We stock up here. This is interesting. Omniscience lets us find another. I'm definitely taking this stock up. Or a redundant copy of Omniscience is good, but we might just be looking to bin an Omniscience off of an effect. I think I'm going to take this Moment of Truth. Obviously, we're hoping to find a Forest Dispersal here. We could be dead if they just play Mountain, Double Strike Mouse, Monstrous Rage us. We die. Okay, well, that's a start to that line of play. Doesn't look like they have another land, so that is good for us. We also have a blocker, so that is also good for us. We are going to... Or actually, we should keep our Blast Zone up in case we draw an untapped land. Then we could put a counter on our Blast Zone. Draw a card, then discard a card. Omniscience. Okay, I'm also just going to play this Archaeologist as a dig spell that also blocks as kind of the more relevant piece here. We are going to take the Afara's Dispersal as just an additional way to not die. We could be super dead here. Monstrous Rage is a not super well-designed... it's a fine magic card, well-designed magic card. It, along with this, both being in Standard at the same time, I think is a little bit of an oversight. And there's that. Okay. Are we dead? There's a mountain. That's not what we wanted to see. So they're pushing 12 here. I can block 6 of it. Do they have another Monstrous Rage? If they do, then... Okay. We're at 7. And we are dead. Okay. Well, here's another good example of Monstrous Rage probably should not be a card that is allowed to be played in Standard. I guess we will see tomorrow. I did not get up as high as I wanted in the ranks, but I appreciate you all watching. I will be back tomorrow, maybe with some exciting ban news. I'll probably try to record another one tomorrow, especially if I try to grind tomorrow night. I might as well record it. But I hope you enjoyed. If you have any different plays you would have made or any commentary based off of my play, the purpose of this channel is for me to improve and for other people to kind of have some VODs to review. I wasn't watching how many matches we played. We only won 6 of them, so I think we probably went around 50% win rate in these games. We did have some unfortunate draw on a couple of them and some fortunate draw on a couple of them, so, it's a give and a take, but I had a good time. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed and want to continue on the journey of just kind of self-improvement, playing games, and learning, please give me a like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. I might play some other decks soon, especially post-rotation. I might try to switch it up, as well as getting into more best of 3 content and like playing that more as I prepare for more paper Magic. But yeah, overall, I really appreciate you watching. If you're stuck with me this long, hopefully you had a good time. And yeah, thank you. I will see you soon, and thanks for watching.